What is your? I was into X before it was cool. Thing? Gmail. 2004-ish. When it was invite only. My friend had a small amount of invites. I worked for a movie theater chain in 1996. And my boss got a VHS copy of Jesus vs. Santa Claus. At some industry event. We watched that video a dozen times and laughed our asses off. About 6 months later South Park debuted on Comedy Central and we were very excited to see it had been picked up. We weren't allowed to have cola much growing up but we drank a ton of seltzer water. I kept drinking it as an adult and people made fun of me for how weird it was because it's not a thing people casually drank. They thought it was either a mixer, like they acted as if I was drinking straight margarita mix, or something from a frou-frou health store. Then fucking LaCroix came along. Or whatever it was that made seltzer suddenly cool a few years ago. I mean I'm glad it's even more common with more flavors and stuff but I used to get teased so much for it. Skateboards. 1964 or so. Spotify. I remember I had to use a VPN to use it in my country. Snowboarding. You couldn't even bring them to resorts. 1983. Sent-in. Electronic mail. Message from my car using a HP 48G calculator and a ham radio in 1993. That feat got published in a technical magazine. Nothing about that first sentence sounds cool. But I know the G is for gangster. Edit. Thanks for all the love. Upvotes. And awards. To answer the common questions. I wrote a terminal emulator for the 48G. That talked to a terminal node controller which is like a modem to interface between the calculator and radio. The message. Don't remember the exact details but I was 16 so it probably went to my mom's Prodigy account to say hi mom. Went through the ham radio packet network until it hit a node with an internet bridge. The car was my POS 88 Mustang that I bought for $1,800. Lastly. The source for G is for gangster as it relates to HP 48G comes from the incredible Nerdrap Entertainment System album by YT Cracker. Bitcoin. Altcoins didn't exist when I got started with it. Mandatory disclaimer. No, I'm not a millionaire now. Home computing. I started in 1976. I had a friend in high school ask me in math class one day if I wanted to go to a concert with her that night. Her sister had extra tickets and she thought I'd want to go. It was a New Kids on the Block comeback tour and I said sure why not. My mom didn't mind me going. We sat around chatting before the show and the opening act was some woman who appeared to be drunk but her music was really good. Nobody had ever heard of her and she only did a few songs but her music was a total earworm that was hard to get rid of once it took hold. Went home that night and googled her single, Just Dance, and downloaded it immediately. And that's how I discovered Lady Gaga. The How to Train Your Dragon books. Unfortunately they're still not cool yet. I came across the Lonely Islands website when I was about 11 or 12. 0203. Before Andy Samberg or the other two, Akiva and Jorma, were big. They had a video where they spliced all these old NES games together into a skit and it was friggin' hilarious. I remember when you could read every comic featuring Deadpool in under 2 hours. This was around the time I said, an Iron Man movie, and they got some wash-up to play him? This'll go over worse than Daredevil. Listening to Nirvana's Blue Song on student radio. NZ. In 1989 and thinking these guys are good. I used to record myself playing video games when I was like 5 or 6 when my parents gave me the VCR they replaced in the living room. Because of this early hobby. Me and a friend did video game playthroughs on YouTube in 2007. We were certainly not the first but we were damn early. We also used a cap card straight out of the gate rather than doing the old recording the screen crap that looked terrible. I first saw The Simpsons when it was a sketch on the Tracy Ullman Show. And thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I was ecstatic when I learned they were making a full cartoon of it. I watched it religiously up until about season 15 or 16 before I finally switched to every once in a while like we all eventually did. Hulu in 2008. It used to be completely free. Browser-based. With no ads. It was the only way for me to watch new episodes of Heroes every week. Elmo when he was just a minor Sesame Street character. We used to watch Sesame Street at my shared house full of college kids. Was a way to unwind. Sounds silly but it was a thing. I liked Elmo. He was pretty chill. I read Fight Club because it was featured prominently in Borders. At the time, no one had heard of it or its amazing author. Xbox Live. I was in the beta. It came on a CD that you had to install on your OG Xbox. Halo CE on XP Connect was where the real action was. Though. I remember going around to stores trying to find all 6 issues of Infinity Gauntlet. I had read one while waiting on my mom to finish grocery shopping and I was hooked. That made me a dork in the early 90s. But now it's a billion-dollar worldwide phenomenon. Fucking A. Not me. But my parents used to use Amazon as an online bookstore before it became much more than that. I was into memes when they were called demotivational posters. Hating Bill Cosby. Had to do volunteer work at the local Jell-O museum for 30 hours to graduate high school in 2008. He used to be the spokesperson for Jell-O. I had to listen to him talk about Jell-O in old commercials for 30 hours on a loop. Edit. I should also mention it's the town where a bunch of kids acquired a mass conversion disorder and all thought they had Tourette's. I actually have mild Tourette's. So that's another thing I did before it was cool. I got Instagram when it was a photography app back in 2011. I was a beta tester for Gmail. I still have the welcome email from 2004. Edit. The email. In an ironic twist of fate, I became a Googler 15 years later. And now I get to beta test all kinds of cool stuff. Even stuff my product area doesn't work on. Had Tesla stock at $28. I saw Borat at a film festival and couldn't quote the jokes to anyone for months. Swine flu. I got it in February 2008 and was the 3rd reported case worldwide. I was attending Comic-Con before most people knew it existed. Show up the day you want. But a ticket. And go in and shop. I have some incredible collectible movie memorabilia from back then, never thought it would turn into the enormous event it has become. Don't want to brag, but I bought some N95 masks the 2nd week of January. Edit. Well, some do. Some don't. But I've never been in this position before and am unsure of the etiquette. So thanks for the upvotes and the awards. From a 62-year-old Canadian woman who's a bit overwhelmed. I had over 300 Bitcoin when it was $3. I spent almost all of it on drugs and a fake ID, and then lost the rest when the Silk Road got seized. It keeps me up at night. I was in marching band with Markiplier. He was my trumpet section leader. It's weird seeing all these memes and all these famous people talking about a guy the first was in high school with. Snapchat. I downloaded it when it was in its early stages. And then deleted the app shortly after because none of my friends were on it. I still have people asking me how I got my username. At @osnapyo. I saw the pilot episode of South Park. I thought it was the funniest shit ever. Showed it to a coworker who said, "That's the stupidest thing I've seen." Fast forward to when South Park goes nuts, and he comes in and says, "Have you seen this hilarious cartoon called South Park?" I said, "Do you remember that pilot episode showed you?" He shut up for a while after that. I had computers back when all they had was 8 kilobits of RAM. And a cassette drive for programs. And you would often spend all night typing in the program printed in a magazine to play it, just to then have to go through it all due to a typing error. Tandy TRS-80 Model 1-1980. Computers didn't really become popular at home until Commodore 64 etc. Also had the Sorcerer and Acorn and an old MSI 8080 back then too. Helped a bit when the school finally got Apple IIe computers. Coincidentally, that's the last Apple computer I've used. I can see the use for them, but they would personally send me batshit crazy versus PC. Was using Netflix since 2001. Not me but my brother. And I shit you not. It was fidget spinners. He continuously kept telling me how they were going to take off and we could get shit rich if we 3D printed and sold them at school. One of my greatest regrets in life. I started watching Smosh videos when they had just a couple of them uploaded. They were probably the first YouTubers I watched religiously. Their first food battle videos were hilarious. There was nothing like good old Smosh. I probably had one of the first top 10 channels back in 2011 where I would post top 10 video stuff about games. I gave up cause it was too much editing and work. But few years later those top 10 channels became very popular. I had COVID-19 before the world went insane over it. Since my dad is a huge weeb. We bought a pack of 500 black medical masks because we saw people in Japan using it for sickness, allergies normally. A year later, pandemic. Being a degenerate weeb pays off, my dudes. Bonus story. Once I wore one of these masks to school and the principal confiscated it because it was distracting. Even though I had a mild cough and sore throat. I bet you feel really stupid right now. Mr. Malavar. I went to a bar a long time ago. Illegally, I was below drinking age. To see this neo-punk band play. I liked it enough that I shelled out for one of their cassettes. Pre-CD. The band was Green Day.